Yeah, I'm Nikolai, and I'm here to talk about the Dai Stablecoin System. This is the invention of us from Maker, and I'm going to tell you about how we feel like this enables an open financial ecosystem, and I'm going to tell you how some of our partners are using our system to create both social and business value today. So I think that's kind of cool from being a blockchain company that we actually see some monetary results in the real world. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. We are the creators of Dai, which is a stable coin. So we have created a cryptocurrency that is price stable to the US dollar. So just remember that one Dai is $1 US. Why is this not? There we go. So why does a stable digital currency matter? Well, the vision of Bitcoin was to create an electronic peer-to-peer cash system. But Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, I feel at least that they're actually not a very good cash because they're too volatile in their value. So they're not a very good cash because they're too speculative. So it's kind of similar to the fact that you wouldn't go down and buy groceries with stocks. It's not a good medium of exchange, basically. And on Ethereum, with all these financial applications, we also see that it's rather complex to use Ether or Bitcoin in smart contracts because you don't know what the value is going to be 2 days from now. So if I lock up Ethereum in a smart contract or send that Ether as a payment, I can't be sure that the value was actually what it was initially when it gets to the recipient. Therefore, we feel that a stablecoin is needed for mainstream adoption of cryptocurrencies, but also to unlock this potential of blockchain. And this is why we have created Dai. So Dai is the first decentralized stablecoin. It is decentralized because the entire business logic of the underlying system is on the blockchain. So in comparison to other stablecoins out there, we're not dependent on fiat currencies in a bank account. Instead, we are backed by other cryptographic assets, currently Ether, but in the future, a lot of other digital tokens. And this means that you don't have a counterparty risk of, for example, some bank with a lot of fiat funds backing a stablecoin defaulting. In our system, it's totally transparent which assets and how much value is actually backing our coin. So that's quite unique to us. And we don't have this central point of failure. And this electronic cash or electronic dollar really unlocks the potential of this programmable money that a lot of people working with smart contracts, they really want to unlock. Because now we do have a stable medium that you can code into smart contracts. We have been live since December 2017 with our stablecoin, and currently there's about 84 million Dai in circulation. This goes up and down all the time. So how does this work? How is Dai minted, and how is it backed by assets? It's, as I said, a smart contract system on Ethereum that handles a series of actions. So it handles the issuing of our stablecoin Dai. It handles the locking and unlocking of digital tokens backing our stablecoin. It liquidates positions of people who have minted the stablecoin. But we also have some administrative powers of this system that I'm going to go into detail later, which is handled by some access that we call the MKR holders. So they hold another token in our system. At the center of this is what we call a collateralized debt position. So if you want to generate Dai, you need to lock up a collateral. And right now, that collateral is Ether. So you are essentially borrowing Dai against the collateral that you lock in our smart contracts. Because Ether is a pretty volatile currency, you have to lock up more value in Ether than you can draw out in Dai, because we need to make the system robust against sudden price drops in the price of Ether. Currently, that means that you can only take 2/3 of the value out in Dai that you have collateralized in Ether. So we have a collateralization ratio of 150%. So you always have to have at least 150% amount of collateral to the Dai that you want to take out in the system. If you want your collateral back, that's very easy. You just repay the Dai that you have loaned in the system plus a fee to retrieve the collateral. And yeah, a very important point, for every Dai there's an excess of collateral. So that's why our system is robust. So we kind of use this analogy sometimes that it's kind of like when you want to borrow money in the bank to buy a house. You kind of have the house as your collateral, but you're not allowed to borrow the whole value of the house because that's kind of the safety that the bank has. So you can perhaps borrow 90% of the value of your house. And then over time, you repay the debt on your house, and then you actually retrieve the house. Like now you own it. Now it's not, the bank who can take it from you. I was talking a little bit about what happens if the price of the collateral suddenly falls. When that happens, the position will get margin called, so the collateral will be seized and sold off in the open market for Dai at a discount, which is then used to stabilize the system. So there are actors who are scanning our system for these positions and finding, hey, this guy is no longer collateralized by 150%. That's an unsafe CDP. They can then go in and mark that in the smart contract system, and then they actually gain access to buy the collateral, in this case Ether, at a 13% discount, that they can then sell off in the market. The leftover collateral, because not always, because you are over-collateralized by 150%. So if there's any leftover collateral, that will just be returned to the borrower. Then I was talking a little bit about these MKR holders. So MKR is another token in our system. So we have Dai, the stablecoin, and then you have MKR, which is a speculative token that is used to govern the system. So holders of this token have voting power to change risk parameters in the system. So they can change, for example, how much should the system be collateralized, which collateral types are we going to onboard in our next version of the system, which we hope will come out in the summer. And they also can influence what interest rate should the people who borrow Dai pay. So the MKR holders are incentivized to do good governance of the system because that essentially makes their tokens worth more. Whereas if they do not get these parameters right, then MKR is used as a backstop to stabilize the system again. So essentially that will dilute the price of their holdings. These metrics are discussed in open weekly governance calls where everyone can join. You don't have to own MKR, but a lot of the people who are, they do, because they're interested in seeing how are we governing this system. So this is where the decentralized autonomous organization comes into play, that even though we are building this system, we actually don't control it. It's the MKR holders who control the system. So they do a lot of research on how is the health of the system and should we tweak the parameters a bit. So this is how we have created a better peer-to-peer electronic cash. And now we have this coin that anyone in the world with an internet connection can acquire and send anywhere very fast, very cheap. And they don't have to worry about security. It's completely transparent, and they don't have to worry about the counterparty risk in the system as you have to do with some other stable coins. So how many Dai out there? Well, as I said, right now there's around 84 million Dai in circulation. 17,000 CDPs, so 17,000 loans, has been generated on our platform. And 2 million Ether is currently locked in our smart contracts. So that's around $310 million US dollars, backing that 84 million Dai. So we're actually much more collateralized than that 150% that we needed. So it's more like around 380%. And over the course of the system, there's actually been generated almost 300 million Dai. So when people pay back the Dai, they're actually taken out of circulation again. So yeah, almost 300 million Dai has been minted throughout the course of this system. So what can you use Dai and the Dai Stablecoin System for? We are working with a lot of different partners who are using Dai in a lot of cool ways. So first of all, in terms of financial inclusion, this system is a really good underlying technology for remittance because we can leverage blockchain technology now to send this stable currency around the world really fast and really cheap, much cheaper than you would otherwise do with remittance services. It's also a very simple use case is that in some parts of the world, your own currency is very inflationary, so you're actually just using, you're actually just looking for a stable currency to hedge your money and your value. And then we also work with different partners who are actually giving people in the third world access to asset-backed loans through this system. So they're actually using our CDP functionality to give out loans in their communities. Then we're also part of a lot of social projects. So we are being used as a way to really easily send money to the disaster zones. So it's being used as foreign aid and also for donations and crowdfunding. In terms of business applications, cross-border payments is a big one that we have a lot of partners who are trying to use our system to do cross-border payments. And then we also have trade finance and actually using our credit system to bring liquidity into otherwise illiquid assets. So when we're launching our new system where you can use other tokens and just Ether as a collateral, you can actually draw Dai on those assets. So that's a way to bring liquidity into a lot of different business applications and business processes. In the end, we really are backbone of dApps and what we call decentralized finance of Ethereum. So Dai is being used in a lot of different applications. At Maker, we really think that there's a lot of power in working together, and we are very interested in just driving the adoption of Dai. So we really want to support any project that can make use of our technology. So that's why we are very proud that we have over 200 partnerships. And among them, Bifrost, a social initiative. We are working with TradeShift and Mess, who's giving a talk after me. And also SendWire and Andreessen Horowitz. All these partnerships means that we actually have a pretty strong ecosystem for anyone who taps into it and wants to use Dai. They immediately get access to a lot of other cool things that people have built using Dai, among other things, obviously. So there's a lot of payment applications. You can exchange Dai on a lot of different exchanges. And there are also these decentralized finance applications where you can take out loans in Dai. Some of our really important partners are those that actually help us exchange fiat currencies into Dai, because there's not Dai acceptance in the market, so you can't go down to the grocery store and use your Dai to pay for groceries, at least not yet. But it also enables this international remittance that I was talking about. So, for example, we are partnered with CoinDirect in Europe and Africa. So if I'm in Denmark and I want to send money to my friend in Argentina, then I can log on to CoinDirect, exchange my euro to Dai, send my Dai to the guy in Argentina directly. He can then onboard to Rehipio and exchange his Dai into Argentinian pesos. And speaking of Argentina, we actually have a lot of demand for these services in Argentina, but in South America and Africa in general, because they have these inflationary currencies. So there's actually a whole market for obtaining, in South America, obtaining US dollars. And we actually enable a service where you really easily can do that. So instead of having to get, US banknotes, you can actually just get Dai, and then you have a stable currency. We're also working with something called Project Bifrost. So it's a loose collaboration between a lot of blockchain companies who wants to improve humanitarian aid. So using Dai, we are able to send money to disaster zones much quicker. So Dai was actually used to send money to the victims of Hurricane Florence through NGOs. So what happens is that people donate to the NGOs exchange their money to Dai, they send it to the man on the ground in the disaster zone, and there he can then use, for example, an app like Ether to exchange into local currencies. We also are working with TradeShift to unlock liquidity across the supply chain. We really think that in the invoice financing market that there's a lot of funds that are locked in between, because when you get an invoice, sometimes you get 30, 60, 90 days to pay that. But an invoice is really a promise of a payment, so that's actually worth something. So we are investigating if you can sell off those invoices in an open market on the blockchain for Dai, and that way do invoice financing a lot faster and more efficient. Then Dai is really a centerpiece of this DeFi, decentralized finance movement, and is being used in a lot of dApps. Maker has the most volume of any dApp on Ethereum, so around 89% of the volume in Ether is in this ecosystem is locked in our smart contracts. And it's being used as a very vital part of these decentralized loan systems. And what else have we? Prediction markets, decentralized exchanges. So we really see Maker as this inclusive platform that anyone can kind of use to build on top of and create economic empowerment. So the stablecoin itself is very useful for, as I said, in the third world for unbanked people. But you can also build these kind of actually very sophisticated financial applications on top of it that also provides business values for organizations here in Scandinavia, for example. So we really encourage anyone to see if they can use our system to unlock some of that potential of blockchain. So what's coming next for Maker? Well, we're going to launch multi-collateral Dai soon, so we're going to open up for other collateral types than Ethereum. We think that's going to make the system a lot more stable and also make the credit functionality a lot more interesting, because all of a sudden you can take out loans using other collateral types than just Ether. We're already live on the Kovan testnet, so you can actually go and try out this system. Then, hopefully this year, we're going to introduce a savings rate, so anyone who holds Dai will actually get an interest rate. So this should drive the demand for Dai up as well. And then next year, we are going to dive into something called synthetic assets. So we want to accommodate not only US dollars, we would like to launch a Euro Dai. And I was talking to some Blockchangers guy at one point that they were interested in seeing like a stable Norwegian krona. So that might also be an option in the future. So a summary, Dai is a decentralized stablecoin open for anyone to generate, hold, use, and send around the world. It's an open source, uncensorable, counterparty risk-free currency. And the Dai Stablecoin System is an open financial system that anyone can leverage to create social and business value today. If you want to follow what we're doing, you can check out our website and our different social channels. We are very active on chat.makerdao.com. And if you want to try out our products, if you want to try to open a CDP with Ethereum, you can try to go to cdp.makerdao.com. It's like magic. Yeah, thank you.